Hamas terrorists invaded Israel in a brutal act of war, killing over 1,200 civilians. There's at least 150 hostages being held in Gaza, and at least 27 Americans have been killed, and that number continues to rise by the day. But the question for policymakers in Congress is, what do we do next? How do we represent the interests of the United States in this turbulent moment? And do these Hamas terror attacks reignite border concerns here in America? Well, here now to break it all down, Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett. Congressman, really good to have you. Before you jump in, sir, this blew my mind when I saw AOC Squadster really kind of pointing the finger at Israel and us. Again, take a listen.
The United States has a responsibility to ensure accountability to human rights, to prevent the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians.
Congressman, your response to your fellow congressperson.
Well, she's my friend, but the truth is, what's the response of killing babies and raping innocent women and murdering old folks and kidnapping them? There's no response to that. You don't. They need to meet their maker, and as soon as possible. And I think that's part of the reason Israel really doesn't want us involved that much, other than our armaments and a little bit of our money. Because they are going to enact some Old Testament judgment, and it's going to come swiftly.
Congressman, you're a God-fearing man. You cite the Bible quite often. What would God tell us to do? What's the American response to what's going on there?
Well, as an evangelical, the way I read the Bible is that we are to protect Israel. I don't think it's a mistake that Jesus was a Jew, and but Israel is in a good spot, I think, as far as militarily right now. We give them about $3.6 billion a year. It's basically on auto check. We've got the largest aircraft carrier in the world, the Gerald R. Ford, and the strike force there, I believe. If I'm not speaking out of turn, I believe we're sending a carrier. We freed up additional dollars. Their stockpiles are enormous of armaments. And I would tell them that we're behind them, but we're going to let them fight this war. And I think we need to get out of the way, because it's a different kind of war. You know, our military rules of engagement really hamper our men. I've talked to so many of them. It's so much different than when my dad fought in the Pacific, which, oddly enough, some of the brutality is very similar to what the Japanese did to the Chinese. And you can research it, the rape of Nanking, how they butchered little babies and raped women and burned people alive and did those kind of just barbaric things that we think humans aren't capable of, but they are.
So may I? And I'm not trying to spark up a fight, but AOC saying we need to make sure that Israel doesn't ethnically cleanse Palestine. Is she a little misguided there?
I think she's well, she knows what she's doing, dude. She's preaching to her home choir, obviously, and that's, we always raise Cain about these folks, and we censure them or put some label on them that just causes them to raise that much more money and be that more empowered in their districts. I wish we would ignore them, honestly, because that's exactly what they want us to do. You put a flag out that's offensive to people. Yeah, that's what you want, somebody to come by and tear it down so that you go, oh, look at me, look at how horrible these people are to me. But you know what? America's the freest nation on God's green earth, and we need to keep it that way. But I think that you're going to see, they've called up a lot of folks, and Israel doesn't mess around historically. Yep. You talk about the biblical times, they sure didn't mess around then, and they're sure not going to mess around now. And also, I think it needs to be pointed out. Yeah. Sure, but Hamas, they rolled the gate they rolled over was the gate that where all the aid that would go to Gaza. So the Hamas leadership, they're the ones pulling up water pipes to make missiles out of. Yep. They're the ones who have spent all this money on terrorism, and not on like their aquifer, which, if you know anything about aquifers, they basically run sewage into it now, and all they're doing is pumping out dirty water because they haven't spent anything on that. All they care about is staying in power and having people killed so they can stay in power. But what they didn't realize was, that Israel's going to roll right over the top of them. I suspect the boundaries of Israel are going to increase, and I would tell Iran they better be very careful in what's going on right now, because our State Department is doing as much as they can to cover for them, but the truth's going to come out eventually to where that's a lot of this funding is coming from. And everybody's worried about this $6 billion. And go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I have to go. I'm up against a hard break. I just want to make sure that folks know that Tim Burchett is on it, and we appreciate you, Representative. Thank you for your time.